talk to you about something very interesting you have noticed as you've read Life on the Mississippi, and that is what I'm going to call jargon. Okay, did you notice that we were talking about steamboats? Yes. And did you find some interesting words that you didn't understand, like Cub Pilot, lead, Texas, mud clerk? Jargon is a term that describes a special language that relates to a specific occupation. We call it jargon. For example, if I said fly, we know there's a little insect called a fly, but are there other uses of the term fly? If you are a fisherman, to you, fly means a fishing lure, doesn't it? That's a fisherman jargon word, a term of art for a fisherman. If you're a baseball player, it means a ball that flies up into the air, and hopefully you will catch it. Or if you're a batter, maybe you're hoping that no one will catch it. A fly, like a fly ball. So if you run into what you might think is jargon, here are some things that will help you understand the words that you are reading. First of all, look for context clues. You may be able to understand what those words mean just by the context of their use. Also, analyze word parts. Can you tell from the root or from any affixes to that word what it might mean? You may use search engines to help you define those words. Just type in define and the word that you're looking for, fly, for example, and it will take you to several possibilities. Look at all those definitions until you find one that fits your story. If one search engine doesn't bring the right result, look through another search engine. This is if you're searching online. Some examples of jargon in the Cub Pilot on the Mississippi that we've been reading, and it's full of jargon. Let's look at some of those. For example, mud clerks. These are all-around workers aboard a steamboat. They don't get any pay, but they are in line for promotion, so it's worth it to them. They start out at the bottom, they work for nothing, but they are looked at because of their experience then for positions higher up. And here's how it's used in Life on the Mississippi. The doctors and the postmaster's sons became mud clerks. The wholesale liquor dealer's son became a barkeeper on a boat. 4 sons of the chief merchant and 2 sons of the county judge became pilots. So these guys started out at the bottom, mud clerks getting no pay. Another term is Cub Pilot, and this one means an apprentice riverboat pilot. Cub Pilot, that kind of makes sense. George Ritchie was the other pilot's cub. He was having good times now, for his boss, George Ealer, was as kind-hearted as Brown wasn't. Okay, we have it switched now, pilot's cub, or Cub Pilot both. Cub Pilot describes the apprentice. The pilot's cub describes the one that's working for the pilot, trying to take that position. Okay? What about Texas and Texas tender? Let's define Texas first. On a steamboat, Texas wasn't a state. It was the third deck of a steamboat, and they said that they named them that because it was the grandest deck, the largest deck. And since Texas was the largest state, they called that deck the Texas. A Texas tender is a waiter that is assigned to wait on that deck. And here we have it in Life on the Mississippi. What you standing there for? Take that ice pitcher down to the Texas tender. Come, move along, and don't you be all day about it. This is Brown yelling out his orders. Okay? And then we have hurricane. This is the upper deck of a steamship, often covered by a light deck as a sunshade. And in our text, my younger brother appeared on the hurricane deck and shouted to Brown to stop at some landing or other a mile or so below. So there we have hurricane. Okay, the last word I want to bring to your attention is leads. The leads were weights that were lowered to test the depth of the river. And this is how Mark Twain used it in his story. The leads were going now in the first crossing. They're crossing over and they're putting those leads down to see if the water's deep enough for their passage. All right, I want you now to do some practice with these tips on figuring out what words mean, words that are jargon. All right?